All righty, folks, welcome back and happy Wednesday, Hump Day Wednesday. El Salvador's president, Nayib Bukele, did the unthinkable for his country. Listen to this. Once a country plagued with rampant gang violence and crime, under his leadership, the country is now one of the safest places in the region. And he did this by jailing over 83,000 gang members. Boy, what a genius idea. His 40,000 inmate mega prison has become a model for tough, no-nonsense incarceration where criminals are locked down 24 hours a day with no rehabilitation programs or the luxuries that we afford these criminals in this freaking country. God knows why. And now, President Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio have secured an historic agreement with President Bukele that will allow the U.S. to deport violent criminals, regardless of nationality, to serve their sentences in El Salvador's high-security mega prison. The move promises to cut prison costs, reduce overcrowding, and enhance public safety by removing dangerous criminals from U.S. soil. To talk about that and more, we're joined by Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz today. Matt is now the host of the brand new hot new show on One American News Network called The Matt Gaetz Show. Really good to have you on, Matt. And I know we're friends for a long time. I know you have a special place in your heart for El Salvador. Tell us what this deal is and how this came together.
I think most of your viewers would be forgiven if they heard the country El Salvador and thought that's some third world wasteland. That's a place where people are unsafe. It is a place where MS-13 has flourished at times. But the reality is El Salvador is leading the Western world in security reforms that have allowed people to be free and prosperous. So here's what happens. Okay, this young guy, Nayib Bukele, gets elected president. And when he sees there is no peace you can ever make with these gangsters, in one foul swoop, he locks up like 1,000 of them in one day. And that created in the military and in the national police such a morale boost that they could defeat MS-13 and some of the other maras that were running the country. And they won. They endeavored on a war against the gangs. They locked up tens of thousands. And the key issue was if there was someone who had like MS-13 tattoos all over, it was do not pass go, do not collect $200, do not get a court-appointed lawyer, do not have some of the privileges that we afford the accused in our country. They went directly to jail. And this change in policy was called the state of exception. The state of exception currently has a 96% approval rating in the country of El Salvador. I'm not sure that the sun and oxygen have approval ratings that high, but the state of exception does because now people have been able to unlock the potential of their lives. And actually, people are moving back to El Salvador. Like I hear all these left-wing groups, Bolling, talking about, oh no, people will be deported back to El Salvador. I'm thinking they're lucky if they're deported back to El Salvador. They should be grateful for the one-way ticket back to a paradise. So Bukele does all this, and U.S. policymakers really start to take notice. I start to take notice. I go down there. I spent time in this prison, Sakat. I saw how folks are treated. It's not inhumane, but they also aren't getting steak dinners and watching ESPN at night. You know, it's prison, right? And so Bukele now believes that instead of having an unregulated repatriation program where people are just dumped into the streets and become desperate and reinvigorate the type of violence and criminal activity that plagued the country. He said, look, give me your criminals. I know how to deal with criminals. If there are people who have killed, have harmed others, if they're from El Salvador, if they're from Tren de Aragua, if they're U.S. citizens, I'll give them 1,000-year sentences. They'll go to Sakata and there won't be a problem for you anymore. And the exportation of strong security policy from El Salvador to the rest of Central America, to the rest of Latin America, may be one of the great transformations we see in the Western Hemisphere.
Matt, is this, man, I'm just spitballing here with you, because is this a profit center for Bukele? I mean, because he says he'll take your worst of the worst, including ours, from our prisons. What's in it for him other than good foreign policy and good relations with the United States? And is he doing with other countries in the region?
Well, Bukele's principal motivation, and I know him well, he's a friend of mine, is to enhance the soft power of El Salvador. He believes in a greater El Salvador. And to change the image of a country that was once the murder capital of the world to a place that countries like the United States look to on matters of security and safety would enhance investment and would create more economic growth for his country than any per diem he could charge for a prisoner. So that's really the driving motivation, is to rebrand El Salvador from a place that MS-13 flourished to now the safest country in the Western Hemisphere, which, by the way, is what it is. And this international messaging reinforces that. Now, he is going to take a per diem, because who wouldn't, right? I mean, he is going to charge a per diem, and it will be a far lower rate than we pay to incarcerate these people in the United States. And it will be a real cost savings when you consider the fact that the ones we jail here get out. And then under left-wing administrations, if illegal immigrants were getting out of prison, they weren't being deported. They were being released on the streets of the sanctuary states in our country. And so if instead you eliminate the risk of that recidivism for illegal immigrants who have committed horrendous crimes, you really start to see the savings.
Yeah, no, so there are a couple of things there, unpack it. So it could actually become some sort of crime deterrent in this country to think if you screw up here and the feds decide to send you, you might end up in El Salvador in a prison. And some of them look pretty scary. I'll be honest with you, some of them look pretty darn scary.
Yeah, Bolling, I don't think that President Trump is really envisioning sending U.S. citizens to El Salvador. It was an interesting offer from President Bukele, but I think you're going to see illegal alien criminals not afforded the benefits and luxuries of the U.S. prison system, but instead being sent to another third country where it makes economic sense for them. It helps them in ancillary ways, but isn't a cost driver for us. And you heard on the trail President Trump talk about how illegal immigrants would overwhelm our social security system. They would overwhelm our healthcare system. But we also don't want them to overwhelm the prison system. And I know U.S. prisoners, like Americans who are incarcerated, probably don't have the biggest political constituency. But like even American prisoners deserve prisons that aren't overrun by illegal aliens. And might not be popular to say that anymore, but I'm a former congressman now, so I can say whatever I want.
You're a former congressman, current show host, and I'm going to get to what's next for Matt Gaetz besides this in a minute. But I want to stay on. So there's so much news going on, and so just folks to understand, it costs us tens of, sometimes 50, 60, depending on the prison, $70,000, $80,000 a year to house a criminal every single year. And if we can ship off to El Salvador some people who aren't U.S. citizens, even if they come from China or wherever else they are, they could end up in El Salvador prison, saving us money. It's a wonderful idea.
Yeah, let me make this other point on El Salvador. And I think it's really important when we look at what's happening in this hemisphere. You saw the president of Honduras, who is a left-wing socialist, who is in many ways a puppet of China, stand up and say she wanted to organize Latin American and Caribbean governments against the United States in some sort of federated effort to block the repatriation of migrants. And so against that backdrop, partnership with El Salvador's Nayib Bukele is ever the more important. And so if there's going to be the China track and the communist track, we need a track that's built on freedom of information, freedom of speech, freedom to be safe on your streets. And no one in Latin America represents that better than President Bukele.
Yeah, I'll show you very quickly. Show that picture, control room of Rubio with Bukele, which is just, I think it speaks volumes. The two of them standing overlooking some sort of body of water, and friends is the only thing that they put with the El Salvador flag and the American flag right next to it. So we get it. We get it. There's a partnership. And by the way, El Salvador has been on the cutting edge of crypto, even further upfield than we have here in the United States, certainly as of recently. Matt, is Panama Canal, are we going to get that back? Trump says all these things are happening. He said Gaza, we're going to take over Gaza. You said that's probably not going to happen. What about the other three I mentioned?
Oh, look, I think that President Trump's reinvigoration of the Monroe Doctrine is one of the most exciting elements of his presidency. I've long lamented America's obsession with like the caves of Central Asia and the deserts of the Middle East at the expense of China and Russia and Iran getting a lot more of their fingers into the politics and economies and diplomatic channels in North America and in Latin America. So I think that it would be great for Greenland to have a relationship with the United States, akin to the relationship they have with Denmark now. It would inure to their benefit and ours. And like, what if the people of Greenland want to be in the United States? I think we would gladly have them, and it would be terrific. Canada should have been. If we'd have known that Canada had oil and minerals we would eventually need, Canada would have been the 14th colony. Okay. Canada was just a place that some Brits and some Indians ran, like after fighting with us for a while. Otherwise, we would have just had that initially as a part of the United States. And clearly, President Trump's moves there are to posture Canada into being a better security partner for us. Their relationships with China are really harmful to the United States, and it ends up with the poisoning of so many of our fellow Americans, which is catastrophic and terrible. And they're a part of it and can do more. And I'm glad they are doing more. The Panama Canal, should be a complete. Oh, sorry, hold on. I'm having a Vish. Can you help me out here? The Panama Canal should not be in the hands of these Chinese operators. Like when we gave the Panama Canal to Panama, it wasn't for them to go and flip it into some feature of the One Belt One Road initiative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, listen. I think all of these things, Trump throws them out there. He's showing that he's doing something different this time than he did the first time. He's jumping out there, getting very aggressive off the top. And I think he does believe, well, I think he kind of takes in the blowback, see what it's like, where it's coming from. If it's all on the left and it's making them crazy, he continues to push the envelope. If his supporters say, that's a really great idea. Greenland is a really strategically located piece of property that, that makes a lot of sense. And, there's questions whether or not anyone owns Greenland, for that matter. So it's fascinating. And Panama, we gave Panama the canal for $1. That was insane. So I think I believe Trump believes he can do all of these, and I also believe that he thinks if he wanted to, the U.S. could develop Gaza. I think that's where he is. He's certainly feeling his oats, so to speak. He's doing as much as he can, see how far he can go. And I don't see any of this as like, let's just kind of shake things up. I think he really wants to do a lot of these things.
He didn't probably want to do the tariffs on Mexico as much as he wanted the Mexican troops on the border to stop the invasion, right? I think he does posture at times to get other countries to treat America with more respect and to give us what we've long sought and what we frequently don't achieve through the paint by numbers foreign policy that we saw from the Biden administration. So I don't know that I take him literally on all these different characterizations. I don't think I take him literally on the Gaza one, but when it comes to the Panama Canal and when it comes to Greenland, those are true national security priorities of the United States. And we have our sphere of influence that has been eroded by other major powers that would have never been tolerated, if Trump had been president when it originally occurred. But it was a lot of the Jimmy Carter policies, frankly, that initially invited that in. And we've got to reassert ourselves. And these are ways to do it. One thing about Gaza for Israel and the United States to understand is that when you have to be the neighborhood crime watch and the block captain of a highly urbanized area with an insurgent military force, you do suffer great casualty because you're creating a lot of targets for the enemy. That was a lesson that Americans learned in Mosul, in Baghdad, in Fallujah, in Kandahar, and all over these wars on terror that we've been fighting. And so, if you have that strategy, you're going to have to keep taking the same neighborhoods and the same hills and the same blocks, and it will demand the spilling of a lot of blood.
The USAID, so the other big story, Trump has said that he's, for now, shutting it down. Hold on, taking a pause on that. And then since then, we found out some of the most outrageous things that they were spending our taxpayer money on. George Soros getting $27 million. George Soros, a billionaire, was given $27 million by USAID. And now, all of a sudden, Trump says we're shutting him down. Do you see the show of Democrat Congress people in front of the USAID offices yesterday freaking the F out because the money trail? This has become like a payoff slush fund for some of these folks. Is that right?
It was one of my favorite things that happened in Washington yesterday. It's hard to top, the signing of the commission for some of Trump's cabinet and the advancements they had in their Senate committees. But to have a bunch of Democrat congressmen march down to a place that is a slush fund for other countries and clandestine operations and demand that more be given to other countries was like the ultimate split screen. When Republicans are fighting to improve quality of life for Americans and Democrats are wondering how we can borrow more money from China to give it to other countries in dubious venture capital projects, we are winning. I don't think that your swing voter is out there saying, my life would be better if the DEI seminars in Serbia were fully funded. My kids would have a prospect for a better future if they are further indebted so that we can fund trans makeup artists in Nepal. USAID is sort of a cover for the CIA that occasionally builds bakeries in Albania and teaches DEI courses on the side. And that's not something we should be involved in. One of the most revealing elements of this enterprise was when USAID refused to give information to Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency because of the special classified status. And I'm thinking, your stated purpose is to go deliver grain and put shelter over people's head around the world. What clandestine, classified information should even be attendant to that? And of course, it shows that the reporting we've seen in the efforts of USAID to build a fake Twitter in Cuba or overthrow governments in different places is just sadly on point. And actually, going back to El Salvador, President Nayib Bukele put out a statement that in many countries they would prefer to not have USAID present at all because they destabilize, they fund protests, they get behind NGOs that are trying to throw out any center-right government that wins an election. And so it's good riddance to USAID from a lot of the countries that I think are trying to build the right balance.
It's amazing that USAID was originally put in place to thwart the spread of communism around the world in the early 60s, I believe, if not mistaken. And it's become some sort of asinine slush fund for politicians who want to get favors. And one of the things I just remember, Politico, the magazine, the web-based magazine in D.C. was being partly funded by USAID. They couldn't make a payroll yesterday because they shut down, because Musk and Doge shut down the payment systems. Politico is being paid by USAID. Are you freaking kidding me? Quick thought on that, because I one more quick question before I let you go, Matt. I know you're busy.
Well, I can tell you that the fusion of big media and big government is something we've been following very closely. The fact that this is where they're getting money clearly shapes their coverage. And in a time when a lot of media entities are facing real existential threats to their survival, they've glommed onto the government teat, and I'm glad it's being exposed.
Yeah, there you go. The government teat seems to be well sucked on by foreigners, especially. Matt, very quickly, Ukraine President Zelensky told the world this week that he can't find so he says we got $75 billion from the U.S. here. That's what we got. We know Biden gave him $177 billion plus. Somehow there's $102 billion missing in this. Matthew, where's the audit and who's going to be held accountable for this?
Well, no one. This wasn't the bug of the system. It was the feature. the reason we had to entangle ourselves in this war in Ukraine is because the Afghanistan war wound down. And so Afghanistan was this great money laundering mecca. It was this great slush fund operation that allowed contractors and elites to, in the righteous name of rebuilding some hellscape, could, buy their like fifth yacht. And now Ukraine has had that designation. Ukraine was already a pretty dubious place for legitimate financial transactions. I think it was at one point called like the third most corrupt country in the world and the most corrupt country in Europe. And so I was very critical of some of the monitoring that was in place on the money and on the weapons. I mean, you talk about the money going missing. I mean, when you look at some of the weapons that did not have the end use monitoring on them, I worry that we might one day see those weapons emerge in the hands of cartels or in the hands of the Iranians or the North Koreans, because it's just exquisite technology that we should not have let out of the country without following our own laws. So there's a lot of stuff moving around there. And I think that's one of the main reasons why President Trump wants to end the war. He spoke so eloquently last evening about wanting to end the war because he wants to stop the killing. But stopping the corruption, I think, is also virtuous.
Yeah, it's insane. At my last network, and you know who it is. I can say, you can say if you want, you don't have to. But I had Senator Mike Lee on. We did 9 minutes interview, and 6 were cut out because the chairman of the network I used to work for was pro-Ukraine. And Mike Lee came on to say stop funding Ukraine. Well, that was censored out. When Mike Lee found out, he went apeshit and said, I'm never going on that network again. Matthew, you were censored on my show on that same network for speaking similar things about stopping the Ukraine funding and about Kevin McCarthy, which it disagreed with the chairman of a television network. He should remove news from that name right now. I just thought I'd throw it out there. I can talk about it. It's one of your competitors now. You may not want to. You certainly can if you want to. But if you don't,
well, I think, I think,
yeah, go ahead.
Here's what I'll say about it. I think I recall that experience. I recall being quite frustrated, because you and I have freewheeling conversations we've done it on a bunch of networks. I think we've done it on Newsmax. We've done it on Fox, just to kind of throw out conservative media. And if conservative media loses the trust of the viewer that issues are being discussed and debated and disagreed upon among smart people, then we start to look more and more like the left-wing media that we criticize. Voices like ours are vanquished from left-wing media because they don't want to have the debate. They want a particular type of Republican on MSNBC, right? They want the Michael Steele Republican. They want the Joe Walsh, Adam Kinzinger type Republican. But when you get to the populist, America First, pro-liberty features of our party, they become very sanguine about that. And I think that we have to, throughout all of conservative media, guard against the impulse to become what we're fighting against.
Yeah, and that's why I'm here on digital side of the equation, where you can say whatever the hell we want to say. Matthew, very quickly, I contend that every single one of Donald Trump's nominees, appointees would have made it through Senate confirmation. I thought you would. I had an argument with O'Reilly about you, and I said you would have. You backed out. Pam Bondi stepped in. She was confirmed last night. Any thoughts on that process? And Matt, are you going to step back into the Florida elected official office elections? We're talking governor, anything else, maybe Senate. What are your thoughts?
Well, I've been very touched by the number of folks who've asked me to return to public life. It was the honor of my career to be asked by President Trump to serve as Attorney General. Pam Bondi is an incredible friend of mine. We actually got into politics the same year in 2010 in Florida, and have really been close allies and have worked together on a number of issues. So while I could not get the votes, and that became clear to me pretty early, it's really exciting to see the progress that Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. and Pete Hegseth and Pam Bondi have made. I still consider those the members of my team. I hope they feel the the same way, and I suspect they do. And I'm going to be doing my job on the outside to try to bring some truth to what's going on the inside. Look, Bolling, you got all these people that went from media into the administration, so at least one person had to go the other direction, right? I mean, otherwise we lost Monica Crowley,
I contend,
in the media,
Matthew,
Pete Hegseth, Pam Bondi was a great commentator.
I would be interviewing the Attorney General, sworn-in Attorney General right now, had you stayed in. I'm sure. I love Pam. Pam's wonderful.
I appreciate the confidence, but I'm telling you, here's the problem. There are a lot of people in the Senate who are Republicans who don't like Trump. And these nominees have done such a great job attacking all of the pretenses that they could have used to not vote for those folks. But there was sufficient pretense, as to me, for them to, pearl clutch about my votes, the bills I've sponsored, elements of my conduct that they didn't appreciate. And at the end of the day, I wanted President Trump to have an attorney general at the beginning of his term to execute on this agenda. I knew what was coming. I knew that all these executive orders were going to be reshaping the federal government, and President Trump deserves an attorney general who can go defend them. Pam Bondi will do a great job, and I'm going to do everything I can to see her be successful.
Indeed, I do. But again, I think that Trump has proven to the world, including the rhinos in the Senate, that he's the man. It's his party, and you want to get in the way. Think about it. You're a senator. You were either elected because Trump backed you this term, or the next two cycles, Trump will at least be in, well, the next cycle he'll be in the office, and he'll be still technically in the office on the second cycle. And you don't want to run up against the Trump buzzsaw because you made sure one of his picks, Matt Gaetz, didn't make it through. That's my theory. I'm gonna live and die with it. Matthew, always a good time talking to you. So OAN, tell us about the show.
Yeah, look, OAN is a hard-charging, a very effective news network. 2025 has been a great year for us. We launched the Matt Gaetz Show. I'm on the set now of the Anchorman Show, which is a weekly show I do with my good friend Dan Ball, who hosts Real America on this network. And, we are back in the Pentagon. You saw Pete Hegseth throw out Politico and NBC News, and Breitbart and OAN were brought into the Pentagon. We were just added on Dish. Yep. One of the fastest growing platforms is Sling. Folks can find our program on Sling. So it's been a year of really strong announcements for the network, and we're looking to get back on as many platforms as we can so people have access to effective content.
There it is, the Matt Gaetz Show. That's Matt Gaetz. Congressman Matt Gaetz, good friend of mine. Good to see you, my friend. We'll speak to you again very soon.
All right, take it easy, Bolling.
Elon Musk has exposed the rats, and the meltdown continues. Musk has quite literally and figuratively opened up a can of worms, can of whoop ass, and they're really, really panicked on the left. They're already throwing around their big boy words like government overthrow. But now the big guns are out, and I know we all know the answer to this question, which is what happens when Democrats don't get their way? Well, what's their last resort? Well, of course, it's violence.
We will not take this. We will fight back.
Fight back. Fight back.
And as I close out, because I know we've been out here for a long time, and goddamn it, shut down the Senate. We are at war.
So not the party of peace and love, noted, because you see, Democrats, the supposed party of peace and love, show time and time again that they're anything but peace and love. And now President Trump has forced them to reveal their truest colors yet again. Let's get into it. Democrats really, 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 really don't like this investigation into what our tax dollars are being spent on and what we're funding around the world. They really, really don't like it. In fact, I haven't seen these congressional members working this hard as they have in the past 2 days since Elon Musk and Doge decided to peek into the years-long spending corruption at USAID. I haven't seen them work this hard. In fact, how much did any of us really know about that organization, USAID, before this weekend? Really not too much, right? And that's exactly how the swamp wanted it. A huge slush fund that they could dip into without ever being held accountable. Democrats have their collective underwear in a twist. They don't like it, and time again, whenever they don't like something, their first resort is to always call it, one, fascism, and two, they call for violence.
With unprecedented organizing, mobilizing, agitating, we will see you in the courts, in Congress, in the streets. Elon Musk is a Nazi Nepo baby.
Okay, Ayala Presley, calm down. Elon Musk has struck the Democrat nerve. Agitation in the streets. Did you hear that? Now, just so I'm clear, mostly peaceful agitation, CNN, or on a scale of 0 to Antifa, what level of agitation should we be expecting this time? Because Pocahontas yelling might just have to be enough to take it to the Antifa decibel of violence. Pocahontas, behold.
Now, no one elected Elon Musk to nothing.
That's right.
Not one Democrat in America voted for Elon Musk.
Not one.
Not one Republican in America voted for Elon Musk. Not one independent in America voted for Elon Musk. Not one libertarian in America voted for Elon Musk. Damn, not one vegetarian in America voted for Elon Musk.
Not one vegetarian. Maybe they didn't specifically vote for Elon Musk, but surely at least one vegetarian is okay with having deep state shady spending investigated, right? But it wouldn't be a day of Democrats calling for violence in the streets without Maxine Waters thirsting for some of her own brand of violence.
We've got to be prepared to be out here no matter how cold it is, no matter if it's the rain, no matter if it's snowing. We've got to be here. This is our country. Yeah. This is not Elon Musk's country. This is not Trump's country.
Maxine Waters, her brand of unhinged is all her own, isn't it? Well, even CNN can't keep a straight face after watching the highlights of that Democrat rage.
We will win. We will win. We won't rest. We won't rest.
Gretchen.
Yes,
so
they
sorry.
need
Can we
the
play it again?
Democrats need a real leader.
See, we're laughing at Chucky Schumer. Even the Democrats are laughing at Chucky Schumer. Jon Stewart last night just ripped them apart. Said, Democrats, keep Chuck Schumer away from a microphone and camera. Listen, I said it yesterday. One, the Democrat panic only proves how much they really rely on organizations like USAID to provide a front for their deep state corruption. They cut deals with countries and businesses around the world. The money comes from USAID in some stupid form, hidden some way, and then these countries and companies turn around and support these Democrat politicians' re-election campaigns. These trips to foreign countries are called CODELs, congressional delegations, and they're really expensive, highfalutin, week-long visits with family members of Congress, people in Italy and Rome and everywhere around the world, and they're sponsored by these companies who are being paid by USAID from those same Congress people who are cutting the deals. It's disgusting. It's pure and simple corruption. Your taxpayer money are being used to ingratiate certain Congress people, making their lives better, not your life. Electric vehicles in Vietnam, a transgender clinic in India. They've got a river filled with literal bullshit, but we're helping them navigate their trans agenda through money from the USAID, both of those. Are you freaking kidding me? We've got an armed IRS army coming after Americans to help fund a Serbian LGBTQ group. Here's how that works. This armed army that Joe Biden put in place, armed 84,000 new IRS agents to come after the middle class, come after your taxes, make sure you're paying enough in taxes so they can collect your taxes and put it into U.S. government, partially dumping billions into USAID, and that billions of USAID money is a slush fund for these Congress people to go corrupt the world, go corrupt with your money. It's disgusting. This is just dumb and wasteful, but we're finding out that some money even goes to support radical organizations linked to terrorism. Is that what terrorism supporter Ilhan Omar is so upset about? $122 million of that aid, USAID aid, was going to groups aligned with terrorist organizations. That's why the squad wants war on our streets, I guess. I'd say a little house cleaning. If it's performed by, and what again was that again? Ayanna Pressley, a Nazi Nepo baby? Trump? Well, what the hell are you talking about? The federal government is bloated, wasteful, counterproductive. It makes sense that if you're accustomed to spending millions upon millions, even billions of dollars, taxpayer dollars no less, and you no longer get that privilege, I'm sure the likes of the USAID dudes, to use a title assigned the esteemed AOC, will no longer be invited to all the cool people cocktail parties that circuit inside the D.C. swamp. Listen.
This dude is probably one of the most unintelligent billionaires I have ever met or seen.
This dude says one of the most ill-equipped members of Congress about Elon Musk, the world's foremost billionaire. The guy's a visionary, a genius. He revolutionized car buying, electric cars. He revolutionized rockets. He revolutionized brain chip implants. Well, like it or not, the guy's brilliant. The great President Reagan gave a speech at the end of his second presidency called the Iron Triangle speech, the precursor to the deep state. Here's a piece.
I found a Congress that was trying to transform our government into a quasi-parliamentary system. And I found a Washington colony that through the Iron Triangle was attempting to rule the nation according to its interests and desires more than the nation's.
Whether Reagan called it the Iron Triangle or Trump calls it the deep state, we now know it and we now refer to it. They never had and never will give up power or money without a fight. They're all working together. Except this time, like that time, they found the wrong president to pick a fight with. Well, the pretentious liberal rage may never end. This entitled airhead wants to sue Trump because her feelings are hurt.
How do I go about suing Trump for emotional damage, emotional turmoil? He is violating my pursuit of happiness. He's disturbing my peace.
Girlie, you got some problems. You're going to go see a therapist. Leave Trump alone. It has nothing to do with your insecurity and your fear and your panic. Go see someone.